In 1991, something unbelievable happened. The mighty Soviet Union collapsed almost overnight. For decades, it had been one of the most powerful nations in the world. It competed directly with the United States in the Cold War. It had nuclear weapons, a massive army, and even sent the first human into space. Most citizens believed it would last forever. But behind the power, the economy was weak. The government controlled everything: factories, prices, jobs, and trade. There was very little competition. Stores often had empty shelves. People waited in long lines for basic goods. In the 1980s, oil prices dropped. Since the Soviet economy depended heavily on oil exports, this hurt badly. Reforms were introduced, but instead of fixing problems, they created confusion. Inflation started rising. Trust in the government began falling. Then, in December 1991, it officially ended. 15 independent countries replaced one superpower. The red Soviet flag came down from the Kremlin for the last time. Millions of people woke up in a new country with no preparation. Their money was unstable, their jobs were uncertain, their future felt unclear. And in times like this, one question matters more than anything: what actually holds value when a system collapses? For decades, people trusted state banks. They believed their savings were safe. After all, the government guaranteed everything. But when the system broke, inflation exploded. The ruble began losing value rapidly. Prices increased faster than salaries. In some places, inflation reached extreme levels within a short period of time. Imagine saving money for 20 years and suddenly that money can barely buy groceries. That is what many families experienced. Bank accounts did not protect them. Government bonds became nearly worthless. Fixed pensions lost purchasing power almost overnight. The lesson was painful. Paper savings depend on stability. When the system holding that paper collapses, the value can disappear with it. Those who relied only on bank savings suffered the most. This event changed how many people viewed money forever. They realized that money inside a system is only as strong as the system itself. And when trust breaks, numbers in an account mean nothing. Inflation doesn't just raise prices, it destroys confidence. When prices change daily or even hourly, people stop planning for the future. They rush to spend money before it loses more value. Shops struggle to set prices. Workers demand payment in goods instead of cash. Fear spreads quickly in unstable economies. Parents worry about feeding their children. Retirees worry about survival. Workers worry about losing jobs. During the early 1990s, many former Soviet states experienced severe inflation. Money felt unreliable. When people stop trusting currency, they look for alternatives. They buy physical goods, they hold foreign money, they trade directly. In unstable times, stability becomes more valuable than profit. This period showed something important. The strongest asset in a crisis is trust, and when trust disappears, only independent assets survive. Gold has survived kings, wars, and collapsing empires for thousands of years. During the Soviet collapse, gold held value because it did not depend on the ruble. It didn't need a bank, it didn't need a government, it didn't need political stability. If someone owned physical gold, they could trade it privately, they could exchange it for foreign currency. They could even take it across borders. Gold was trusted internationally. Unlike paper money, it cannot be printed. Unlike bank accounts, it cannot freeze due to policy change. That is why gold often rises in uncertain times. It represents independent value. During collapse, assets that rely on government promises weaken. Assets that rely on global trust remain strong. Gold survived because it has always been recognized as valuable no matter which flag is flying. While the ruble became unstable, many people secretly held foreign currency, especially US dollars. The dollar was trusted because it was backed by a stable and powerful economy. The economy of the United States remained strong during this period. Black markets started operating in dollars instead of rubles. If you had dollars, you could buy goods more easily. Sellers preferred stable money. This showed a powerful rule. When local currency collapses, global currency becomes protection. The dollar became a lifeline for many families. It allowed trade. It preserved purchasing power. It reduced fear. This was not about politics. It was about trust. People chose the currency that felt stable. And in a crisis, stability becomes more valuable than loyalty. Not all properties survived the collapse equally. In small towns, many factories closed. Jobs disappeared. Populations shrank. Property values in those areas dropped sharply. But in major cities like Moscow, real estate held long-term value. Why? Because cities remain economic centers even during crisis. Government offices, foreign businesses, trade hubs, and new private companies were mostly located there. People moved toward opportunity. Apartments in central areas became valuable again once markets stabilized. While prices fell during the worst period, prime locations recovered over time. This reveals an important lesson. Location matters more than ownership. Owning land in a declining area is very different from owning property in a growing city. Housing is a basic human need. No matter what system exists, people need places to live. That gives strong urban property resilience. Real estate tied to economic activity survived better than real estate tied to state factories. During collapse, demand shifts, but it does not disappear. and assets located where opportunity returns tend to survive. Governments can collapse, currencies can collapse, but natural resources do not disappear. Russia remained one of the largest oil and gas producers in the world even after the fall of the Soviet Union. Companies connected to energy eventually became extremely powerful in the 2000s. Why did this sector survive? Because the world still needed oil. Energy demand is global. It does not depend on one political system. Countries across Europe and Asia continued buying Russian oil and gas. Commodities tied to global demand are more resilient than assets tied to local policy. Even during instability, natural resources maintained value because they served a real, international need. This teaches a key principle. Assets connected to global necessity survive local collapse. Oil fields did not care about political change. Pipelines did not stop being valuable. Energy continued flowing and value flowed with it. Under the Soviet system, jobs were guaranteed. People worked in state factories, military industries, or government offices. Salaries were stable but controlled. When the system collapsed, many of those jobs disappeared. Factories closed. Funding stopped. Millions were unemployed. But something important survived. Skills. Engineers, doctors, programmers, mechanics, people with practical abilities adapted faster. Some started private businesses. Some moved abroad. Some worked for new foreign companies entering the market. Degrees alone were not enough. Practical skills created income. This is called human capital, the value of your knowledge and ability. Unlike money in a bank, skills cannot be frozen. Unlike currency, they do not lose value overnight. People who could solve problems found new opportunities in the new market economy. In times of uncertainty, your ability to create value becomes your strongest asset. Systems change, skills travel. Before 1991, private businesses were extremely limited. The state controlled most economic activity. After the collapse, markets opened. Suddenly, small businesses appeared everywhere. Street vendors sold food. Repair shops opened. Private transportation services started. Entrepreneurs moved quickly to fill gaps left by the government. The early 1990s were chaotic, but they were also full of opportunity. People who adapted quickly survived better than those waiting for government stability. Why? Because flexibility beats dependence during collapse. Small businesses respond directly to demand. They adjust prices, they shift products, they innovate. While government salaries stopped, entrepreneurs created income streams. It wasn't easy. There was risk, there was corruption, there was instability. But those who moved early often gained long-term wealth. Collapse removes old structures. It rewards speed. When the Soviet Union fell, wealth did not disappear. It transferred. Paper savings tied to the state suffered. Assets tied to global trust survived. Gold survived. Foreign currency survived. Prime city property survived. Energy resources survived. Skills survived. Entrepreneurship survived. The pattern is clear. Assets dependent on one government are fragile. Assets tied to universal human needs are strong. Food, energy, housing, useful skills. Globally trusted stores of value. The collapse of the Soviet Union was not just political history. It was a financial lesson. Every generation believes its system is permanent. History shows otherwise. The real question is not whether systems change. The real question is, when they do, what will you be holding?